Hello and a very good evening. You're now watching TVS English News at 5. Let's get into it. The 2021 budget tabled during the peak of the third wave of the pandemic was seen as timely. The potential rise in food insecurity amid the pandemic has caused many countries, especially developing ones, to focus on optimizing natural resources. As the people look forward to important incentives in planning current interests, especially to ensure the survival of the agriculture and food security industry, thus ensuring that the agriculture sector remains functioning as usual and supplying sufficient quality food at reasonable prices while consumers can get raw supplies during the movement control order and when facing loss of income. University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, Faculty of Science and Technology, Department of Food Sciences Senior Lecturer Dr. Saiful Irwan Zubairi said following the seemingly endless pandemic, food security issues were seen to have a chain effect on the country. According to United Nations World Food Programme, some 265 million people worldwide are expected to face the risk of food insecurity by the end of 2020 due to the loss of income. However, the risk is seen as moderate in the country, especially with the various incentives given in the 2021 budget, including the microcredit financing through Tekun, Perbadanan Usahawan Nasional Berhad (PUNB), and Bank Simpanan Nasional (BSN) amounting to 1.2 billion ringgit to help the B40 and M40 groups. He also said the 30 million ringgit allocation for the e-rebate of 200 ringgit for the purchase of energy-efficient locally manufactured air conditioner or refrigerator would benefit smallholders in ensuring fresh produce. Meanwhile, University Putra Malaysia School of Business and Economics Deputy Dean Associate Professor Dr. Normas Wan Ismail said there were two main dimensions in food security that were given attention in the budget tabled on November 6. It involves the ability to buy food by providing various incentives in the form of cash or other incentives, as well as the provision of high financial distribution to the agriculture and food sector to ensure the food supply chain remains unbroken. The government plans to implement more stringent standard operating procedures for foreign workers, as well as extend the swab test requirement on those in the industrial sector. Senior Minister Security Cluster Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said currently the government is waiting for a proposal on the matter from the Human Resources Ministry.
Ismail Sabri said they are in the midst of conducting a detailed study, noting that to date there are about 1.7 million foreign workers in Malaysia, and with such a large number, they are considering of the laboratory's capability in producing the results and who should bear the cost if we were to conduct the swab test on them. At a press conference on the development of the Recovery Movement Control Order, he said that over 1 million of the foreign workers contribute to the Social Security Organisation SOCSO. On Sunday, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah was reported as saying the cluster that has recorded the highest number of cases was the Damalela construction site cluster in Kuala Lumpur with 460 cases.
Foreign nationals who wish to enter Malaysia should abide by the guidelines set by the government. Those who have signed a letter of undertaking as well as those who have received the travel note must adhere to the new directive. That includes paying the quarantine charges at international entry points.
The National Disaster Management Agency (NADMA) said the government had issued the directive prior to many non-Malaysian persons under surveillance (PUS) failed to settle the administrative and management charges until the final day of their quarantine at the quarantine stations. According to NADMA, non-Malaysians, including dependents of Malaysians, will be charged 150 ringgit per day based on quarantine duration at hotel premises, as well as administration and management charges of 2,600 ringgit as stipulated by the Health Ministry. In total, a non-Malaysian has to pay 5,070 ringgit, including 250 ringgit for the PCR test upon arrival and 120 ringgit for the antigen rapid test kit on the 13th day. As a preventive measure to stem the spread of COVID-19 in the country, the government has decided that all individuals entering Malaysia from overseas are subjected to mandatory quarantine at gazetted quarantine stations since July 24th this year. NEDMA also explained that the Immigration Department has the right to issue the not to land order for non-Malaysian passengers who failed to produce their travel note. Following the directive, all individuals returning from overseas and entering Malaysia via the international entry points would have to bear the full quarantine cost.
The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, post-2020 vision must contain long-term and sustainable solutions. A solution to deal with COVID-19 challenges and other future contingencies that may affect the region on the global scale.
Dato Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali said the member economies had discussed and deliberately APEC's aspiration for the present and the future. Taking into consideration the current global challenges, he said it should spur growth in the region and bring greater prosperity to be shared among the people of Asia-Pacific. The Minister of International Trade and Industry, who chaired the meeting, said discussions among economists on the new APEC vision is ongoing. On the Leaders' Declaration LD, which was last issued during APEC 2018, he said discussion among economists was still. Azmin added that the LD will provide an assurance that leaders of APEC economies are not complacent in providing the best to the people.
China on Tuesday moved a massive rocket into place in preparation for launching a mission to bring back materials from the moon for the first time in 4 decades. The Long March 5 was transported by tractor from its hangar to the nearby launch site at the space base in Wenchang along the coast of the southern island province of Hainan. The Chang E5 mission it will carry is scheduled to launch early next week, placing a lander on the moon that will drill 2 meters or almost 7 feet beneath the surface and scoop up rocks and other debris to be brought to Earth. The mission, named for the Chinese moon goddess, is among China's most ambitious as the space program continues to build steam since it first put a man in space in 2003, becoming only the 3rd nation to do so after the US and Russia. China currently has a mission on the way to Mars, along with a rover on the moon's far side that is providing the first full measurements of radiation exposure from the lunar surface, information vital for any country that plans to send astronauts to the moon. Stay tuned for more news updates as we will be right back after the commercial break. Welcome back. SpaceX's newly launched capsule with 4 astronauts arrived Monday at the International Space Station, their new home until spring. The Dragon capsule pulled up and docked following a 27-hour completely automated flight from NASA's Kennedy Space Center. The link-up occurred 422 kilometers above Idaho. This is the 2nd astronaut mission for SpaceX, but it's the first time Elon Musk's company delivered a crew for a full half-year station stay. The 2-pilot test flight earlier this year lasted 2 months. The 3 Americans and 1 Japanese astronaut will remain at the orbiting lab until their replacements arrive on another Dragon in April. And so it will go, with SpaceX and eventually Boeing transporting astronauts to and from the station for NASA. Hopkins and his crew, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Japan's Soichi Noguchi, joined 2 Russians and 1 American who flew to the space station last month from Kazakhstan. Glover is the first African-American to move in for the long haul. The death toll from the deadliest cyclone to hit the Philippines this year has climbed to 67, with 12 people still missing. 22 fatalities were recorded in Cagayan, 17 in southern Luzon provinces, 8 in Metro Manila, and 20 in 2 other regions.
President Rodrigo Duterte was scheduled to fly to the northern Tuguegarao province later in the day to assess the situation in Cagayan Valley region, which was heavily flooded after Typhoon Vamco dumped rain over swathe of the main Luzon island, including the capital, Metropolitan Manila. Disaster agency spokesman Mark Timble said 21 people were injured. Many areas in Cagayan, a rice and corn-producing region of 1.2 million people, remained submerged. Heavy flooding caused by the accumulated effects of previous weather disturbances, as well as water from a dam and higher plains, affected thousands of families, some of whom had fled to rooftops to escape 2-story high floods. Nearly 26,000 houses were also damaged. Relief and rescue operations continued while the nearby Gov't Dam was still releasing water 2 days after releasing a volume equivalent to 2 Olympic-sized pools per second.
Britain's Lewis Hamilton choked back tears as he won a record equaling the 7th Formula One World Championship and became the most successful driver in the sport's history. Hamilton said there was a point where he thought the race was slipping away from him, and the leaden skies and constant threat of rain added to the sense of uncertainty, but he kept believing.
The Mercedes ace put on a masterclass in wet and slippery conditions to take a record-stretching 94th career win at the roller coaster of a Turkish Grand Prix and secure the title with 3 races to spare. Only Ferrari great Michael Schumacher has 7 titles to his name, a number once thought unlikely ever to be matched, but most of the German's records have passed to Hamilton. So complete was Hamilton's domination that he lapped sole rival and teammate Valtteri Bottas with 12 laps to go on a nightmare afternoon for the spinning Finn, who finished 14th.
We dreamed of this when we were young, and when I was young, when we were watching the Grand Prix, and this is way, way beyond our dreams. And I think it's so important for kids out there to hopefully see this and know that don't listen to anybody that tells you you can't achieve something. Dream the impossible and speak it into existence, and you've got to work for it, you've got to chase it, and you've got to never give.
Hamilton already had more race wins, pole positions and podium finishes than anyone in the history of the sport, but despite starting a season-low 6th, the 35-year-old was determined to add to the tally. The Briton finished a massive 31.6 seconds clear of Racing Point's second-place Mexican Sergio Perez in a race run behind closed doors due to COVID-19 pandemic. Hamilton was congratulated after pucking up by Perez, who still has no seat for 2021, and Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel, who completed the podium in a race full of spins and changes of lead.
Well, that's it for now, but for more news updates, stay tuned to the Nightline with Ruben Gomez at 11:30 p.m. I'm Razi Ahmad for TVS. Stay safe.